Hi, it's me JD and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be showing you 5 easy techniques to give your paper crafts that wow factor. I consider these tutorials a way to make it look like you bought your cards from a store. So sit back, subscribe, and let's take your handmade cards to the next level. Another craft supply that you could add to your crafty arsenal is clear pattern vinyl, and it comes like this in a sheet or a roll, and the majority of it is clear, but there's a pattern on it. It could be polka dots, foil, stripes, glitter. I have a collection of holographic pattern clear vinyl in my binder here. I just store it in some sheet protectors. But anyway, using this kind of vinyl really adds a wow factor to your cards. And this is adhesive vinyl. So there's already adhesive on there. You just simply peel it off the backing and stick it to your card front. I think the holographic patterned clear vinyl looks best on dark colored paper such as black or navy blue, because it just brings out all of those colors and shades and shine, and it really just makes it sparkle. There's no extra glue or special adhesive involved. You just simply peel and stick and cut off any excess you may have. You can also die cut with this clear vinyl. Simply just cut out a piece that's large enough for your metal die. I'm using a Gemini Junior die cutting machine to cut this out, but any traditional die cutting machine will work. And then for this, I'm going to peel up the vinyl and stick it on my card front first. That way, when I run it through my die cutting machine, the die will cut through the vinyl and the cardstock all at once. The vinyl is generally very thin, and I applied it to a thick cardstock, and it only took one pass through my Gemini Junior to cut beautifully. So I'll just add some liquid adhesive on the back of this. I'm going to add it to a shadow piece just to make it pop even more. And look at all of this shine and reflecting colors, and it truly says wow. You may have done some inlay die cutting in your card making, but have you ever just backed your outline die cuts out? It's another variation of that technique. Rather than saving all of those negative die cut pieces, you can just create an entire new backing to your outline die cut. So first I'm going to start off with using these rose outline dies, and I'm going to run it through my Gemini Junior die cutting machine on some scrap paper. Then I will poke out all of those pieces I don't need, and I can just toss them, and I don't have to, put them together like a puzzle. I also only run my die through my die cutting machine once instead of multiple times in order to have, separate colored cardstock. So what I'm doing is I'm placing my die cut on a separate colored piece of cardstock, and I'm just tracing the outside of that rose using a regular pencil. Then I will take some fine point scissors and start fussy cutting this out. I'm not too worried about it being completely perfect because I can always just go back later to trim it up or clean it up. If you want, you can also use some painter's tape or some low-tack tape to hold your backing piece to your outline die cut to hold it together while you trim off any of the excess paper. This is a pretty simple design, so I'm just holding it together with my fingers. Now I will go back and do the same process with the leaves of the rose outline die cut. I simply just traced it along some different colored cardstock, and I'll fussy cut it out, and I'll line it up with my die cut again just to get rid of any excess paper and make it look a little cleaner. Then when I'm satisfied with all of those pieces, I'm going to just add some glue on the back of that outline to attach all of my pieces together. And what this technique does is that raised outline just adds that extra dimension to your die cuts. With regular inlay die cutting, you have, an entire flat die cut at the end. Well, with this one, like I said, the outline is an extra raised edge, so it really makes your die cuts pop. This is a great card making technique if you want the look of inlay die cutting, but perhaps you don't want to put all those pieces together, or your metal die is way too intricate and it might take you a while to put all those pieces and inlay them. With this technique, you only have to worry about a couple of big pieces rather than a bunch of little pieces. Here I'm just repeating the steps for a couple of more roses. Once all of my roses are complete, I'll just wait till they're dry, completely dry, and then I'll add some more liquid adhesive on the backs of all of these pieces, and then I'll glue them down to my card front. With this technique, I only had to run the die through the die cutting machine just once, and I just fussy cut some large backing pieces. The end result is a raised edge on my die cuts, some extra dimension, a little bit of shadow, a little bit of texture, and once all my roses are glued on, I'm just going to add a die cut sentiment, and this card is pretty much complete. I've showed this technique before, but I want to show it again because it is one of my favorites. All you need for this technique is some foil cardstock and some embossing folders. I'll stick the foil cardstock in the folder with the pretty side up, and I'm going to run this through my Spellbinders die cutting machine. And your die cutting machine, whatever you use, should have instructions on how to use an embossing folder. It just varies by machine what kind of sandwich you need to make. I will crank the entire thing through my machine, and I just love the impression of dry embossed foil. It is so cool. It creates so many shadows and just creates a lot of interest and reflection, and it really is one of my favorite techniques to do. It looks like specialty paper I bought when really it was just plain old foil cardstock. You can do this with regular cardstock as well. I just love the shine and different light reflections you get when you do it over foil cardstock. And like with the other cards, I'll just add a die cut sentiment to this. And yes, you can glue or, glue die cut sentiments or gems or sequins on this foil cardstock easily, even after it's been through dry embossing. You could also die cut that embossed foil piece too to make really interesting die cuts if you want. Here I am using it for an entire card front, and boy does it say wow. Using felt is a great way to add texture to your handmade cards. Felt comes in so many different colors now, and you're not just limited to what you see in the store. If you go online, there's so many more, sophisticated colors. It can really look elegant even though it's craft felt. For this next DIY card, I'm going to be using some flower dies. And once I've selected the color, I'll just cut out the piece that I need. Of course, when we have this great felt, you always want to save as much as you can and be a little stingy with it. But I've had it for years now, and I think it's time to start using it up. So I'll run all of this through my die cutting machine, and it cuts wonderfully. This is a nice quality felt. And I actually cut the little center of the flowers out of white cardstock simply because I didn't have any white felt. I think I used that all up, ironically. So anyway, after I adhered all the centers of the flowers to the felt flowers, I'm going to put my die cut sentiment on there to help center that first, and that will be my anchor. Then I will glue all of the flowers into place on my card front. You'll notice I have stripes on my card front. I did that with some spare white cardstock just because I wanted a striped look to my card front, but I don't have a stamp that does that. So I improvised. And I already tested it out before. This kind of strong adhesive does hold felt. You don't necessarily need to use your hot glue gun. I mean, that might be a little more secure, but I'm making a handmade card as opposed to a decoration, so I just need a basic strong hold. And I am just loving all of this texture on this card. I think anytime you add a textile onto a card, it just instantly makes it look more expensive and feel more expensive. This last card making technique involves more shiny stuff. This time is metallic alcohol ink on dark cardstock. And this cardstock from Ranger is specifically made for alcohol ink. You just can't use any plain old cardstock for use of alcohol inks. You need like somewhat of a glossy surface. Here I'm quickly showing you the difference between regular alcohol ink and metallic alcohol ink on dark surfaces. So I I dropped some red drops of alcohol ink, and you can barely see it. And then I put down some gold alcohol ink, and this one looks a little muddy right now, but it will get better. I didn't shake it up enough, but once I did, you can really start to see the shine and reflection off this alcohol ink. As always, with alcohol ink, you want to protect your surface, protect your hands, and protect your lungs by working in a well-ventilated area. Now I'm going to just drop some silver alcohol ink, and look at all this shine. Oh, I can't stand it. It looks like money. It's that reflective. It's like I melted down coins and then just poured that liquid onto my cardstock. And to help move this cardstock around, I'm using some blending solution made for alcohol ink, as well as this puffer and a straw. I'm just laying down more layers of alcohol ink until I get something I like. And this is all about play and having fun, and nothing has to be too perfect when you're working with alcohol ink. I set this aside to dry overnight, and once it has, I'm going to put some glue on the back of my die cut sentiment and just pop that right on there. Even after it's dried, you can still see that it has not lost any of that luster and shine, this metallic alcohol ink. So now I'll quickly put all of these card fronts onto note cards. I also went back and added some extra bling by gluing on some sequins and gems onto these card fronts. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you got some inspiration to take your cards to the next level, or come up with some ways to add that wow factor to your paper crafts. Again, thank you, and I'll catch you in the next video.